Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to the very first episode of the Heart of Clay series. Over the next few weeks, I'll be guiding you through the steps of making beautiful, simple pottery right from the wheel. So whether you're throwing along with me or just watching and learning, I'm really glad you're here because I truly believe that there's an artist in all of us. I didn't know I was one until I found clay. So maybe this series will be able to help you find the artist in you. Because pottery teaches us stillness in motion, how to slow down, center up, and create with intention. But don't worry, for this first season, we're gonna keep things very simple. Each week, we're gonna be using the same tools: a sponge, a wood rib, a metal rib, even a really big plastic rib, a wood knife, a needle tool, a wire tool, and some brushes. We'll also be using the same glazes throughout this season. And everything we use is linked below, so in case you want to buy the tools and glazes and be able to follow along with us. Because the truth is, you don't need a degree or years of experience to create beautiful, simple pottery that you're proud of. So take a breath, relax those hands, and let's make something beautiful together. Let's throw some clay. So today, I thought we'd start off with 2 pounds of clay, or roughly 2 pounds. So what we're gonna do is just get that clay ready by waking it up. So I'm just kind of hitting it with my hand and then squeezing and rotating, okay? This kind of gets the clay moving and it wakes it up. And then the first thing we wanna do is get it prepped, and to be able to center the clay, we need to knead it, kind of like kneading dough. Except with this clay, we're gonna hold our hands on the sides, push down and in, okay? Push down and forward, actually. Down and forward, down and forward. And what this does is it just starts to get any air bubbles, and it'll help you avoid a lot of problems later on. But you're just gonna keep pushing down and forward until you get this cute little monkey face, okay? So, if you've got that, you're on the right track. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of kick on the turbo mode. And, don't worry if you can't do it this fast right off the bat. It just takes some time and practice. Soon enough, you'll be kneading clay like nobody's business. Okay. We've got our kneaded clay. So this is what you're looking for. Nice, smooth, no lines really. It's just a solid piece of clay. The reason we do this is to help us get it centered and make sure it's super centered. So before we start though, real quick, I just want to talk a little bit about this clay because this is a specific type of clay. It's called B-Mix 5. And what that means is basically you have clays that are really soft and then you have clays that are really firm. But then you have clays that are like B-Mix 5, which are right in the middle. So they're really soft, but they're also firm so that you'll be able to learn a lot easier actually. It's like perfect for beginners. And so I highly recommend you get B-Mix. Now you can get it, it's just kind of like a general name. If you say B-Mix to most of your clay suppliers, they'll know what you're talking about. But I really, really encourage you to get B-Mix. It's a porcelain mix clay. So it's not too soft, it's not too firm, right in the middle. And that'll make a huge difference. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our cute little wheel here wet. Not too wet though. And then let's go ahead and just go for it. All right, so when you slam it down, you want it to be slammed down pretty hard so it doesn't come off. But look, it's not centered. Don't worry. Before you just take it off and keep slamming it down, let's go ahead and just take our hand on the side. We're just gonna kind of push down and slide it. And what that does is we can kick it right in the middle, which helps us center the clay a lot faster. We're gonna grab some water with our sponge, get that wet, get your hands wet. Don't be afraid, stay a little while. Now, we're gonna cup it with our hands or palms and just push in and up. And then we gotta get some more water because we don't want it to get too dry. That'll be giving us a lot of issues. It'll start throwing you around. You gotta keep that clay wet. What we're doing is we're gonna make a cone. This is the best and easiest way I've found to center clay. Now watch as I drag my pinky down there. And then I'm gonna squeeze the clay and bring it on up. Look at that. Look at those growing pains the clay is having. Probably doesn't really feel pain, but these rings are from stretching it in and up just a little faster than the clay can handle, but that's okay. Because now we're gonna bring it back down with our hand on the side like that. Look at, I'm tilting it just a little bit. One quick thing to notice though is I've got my sponge in my hand so I can keep it wet if I need to. Because what I'm doing is just putting that pressure on the side and on top, and that's what helps us center. Because one thing I wish I learned in high school, and maybe my teacher taught it to us one day and I just wasn't listening, but I later figured out really, like if you're anything like me, I'm a visual person and it was hard to envision. Like what is the clay doing? Like when you center it, what's happening? Well, one day I finally figured it out, you know, simple physics. Basically when you have clay spinning on a wheel like this, if you push from the sides, it's gonna force the clay to go somewhere, right? Well, guess what? It goes up. And on the contrary, if you have your hand on top and start pushing, the clay is gonna wanna go down, but also outward. You see that? So in order for us to get it in the middle, we've gotta keep our hand on the side like this and push at the same time while we're pushing down. So I'm actually slowly pushing with both hands. And then if you slowly let off, that combination creates centered clay. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. So I'm gonna squeeze from the outside and I'm gonna push in and up. That's just what makes the cone shape. But when we push from the sides, it pushes the clay up. And when we go back down, I'm bracing with that hand on the side and my fist on top is pushing. And right about here, you kind of want an English muffin shape. We're gonna push with both hands and then just slowly let off. Sometimes I like to drag a finger down here just to clean it up. Just a little trick there. Now, because it's so wide, I'm actually just gonna kind of suck in the sides by pushing. And look at that. Now, if I can press and squeeze some water, that helps it even more. All right, now that we've got it centered, let's get it wet and let's dig a hole. So, today we're gonna make a bowl. Can't remember if I mentioned that, but if I didn't, I'm sorry and surprise. We're gonna make a bowl. So this could be a cereal bowl, it could be a salsa bowl. Heck, it could turn into an ashtray, okay? I wouldn't encourage taking up smoking, but you know, if you're really good at ashtrays, you might have a little gift there. Now what we're doing is we just dug down to where there's like about that much at the bottom because you don't want to go all the way down. But don't worry, if you do go all the way down, it's totally fine because guess what? You can make that into a little succulent pot or like a plant. But for today, I really like to use this for like salsa or cereal. That's the word. So basically I pushed down till I'm at a good depth, and then I pulled the clay towards me to widen out the base down there. Now, one thing that a lot of pottery artists might forget to do, because they don't really learn this trick until they start making really big stuff, is taking this wood rib tool. This is going to be like your best friend, okay? I love this tool, but essentially we're going to get the clay wet down in there, and we're going to use this part to flatten the bottom but also compress it. And what this does is it helps prevent cracking, especially like if you're looking forward to eating cereal out of this and then you come to find out there's a crack in it when it dries. That's no fun. So now that we got that compressed, we're gonna set the walls, these walls here, and watch as I just kind of push in and angle the walls so it's kind of like a volcano shape. This is a really strong shape that allows us to build it up into a cylinder. So we're gonna get it wet. We're gonna take our sponge like this and wrap it around our finger. I'm gonna do that one more time. So your hand's gonna look like this, but with the sponge there. We've got our hand on the inside as support. And if you're a beginner, just start with the outside hand, okay? By pushing down and in. You know, really push down and in. And now slowly push in and up. And just let your inside finger glide against the clay and just kind of help support. And slowly let off at the top, okay? Slowly. Now, don't forget to smooth out the top here. We've got some growing pains. As you can imagine, when this clay comes up, it's gonna start to do this a little bit, all right? So, now that we've got that part, let me just get that wet again. Now I'm gonna really push down and in, scoop that clay, okay? And now I'm gonna slowly bring my hands up. It's really important to get comfortable doing it like this so that you don't tear through the wall right off the bat, because honestly, like, it's good to figure out the limits of the clay, but mentally it is not good for you. You will get discouraged a lot faster. So get comfortable pushing on the outside, and then once you feel pretty confident, you can start to push from the inside. So let's go ahead and give that a try. So we're set up just like we normally do. We're gonna suck in that shoulder there to keep ourselves steady. Now watch as I push from the inside and kind of dig down and in with the outside hand. I'm creating this little lump, this ring that I can then pull straight up with both hands. Now watch as I slow down the wheel. Okay. And then we're gonna go all the way to about here. Slowly let off. Now, don't forget to breathe when you're doing that, okay? Now, here's where the fun part gets. Because we're doing a bowl, we want this rim to be a little thicker like it is, because we're gonna stretch it, okay? Now, before we stretch it, there's something that you're always gonna wanna do, okay? And that is straightening the walls. I did a pretty good job. Like, the wall's pretty dang straight, but just to be safe, let's go ahead and take our cute little wood rib tool here. And if we come in on the side like this, we can use this straight edge to make our cylinder like perfectly straight, which is what we want. So I'm just gently pushing my fingers on the inside onto the tool, okay? I'm not pushing with both too much. Now here's where the magic happens. This is really important. Take the tip of this tool down at the bottom, and we had a little extra clay down there, so I'm gonna get rid of that real quick. At the tip down here, Right now our angle is like this, but if we want a bowl, we just kind of tilt it. And then we're gonna fill in this gap. So I'm gonna hold this nice and steady. I've got my thumb here, and watch, we slow down the wheel. Whenever we're going wide, you really wanna slow down that wheel. You're not in a hurry. You are not in a hurry. Just focus and breathe as you push that clay towards the tool. And what's happening is you're stretching the clay. It's being forced to go wide. It's a lot of stress on the clay, but let it just slowly relieve its stress at the top here and let off slowly. Doesn't that feel good? I sure do love making bowls. And honestly, I feel like most of the time beginners, they naturally make bowls. And so that's why I chose to do this project very first. Okay, so it's kind of looking like a plant pot, which is great, but we want a bowl. So now we're at this angle. What are we gonna do? You probably guessed it. We're gonna tilt it a little more. And we slowed the wheel down. We are not in a hurry. Grandma and Grandpa are fine. Mom and Dad are fine. Brothers and sisters, if you have any, are fine. Everybody's okay for the moment. You don't have a care in the world. Just focus on stretching that clay. Now we're gonna stop right there and kind of go up with the tool a little bit. Look at that. It's really stacking up to be a nice, cute little bowl. Now, every once in a while, let's get this little lake down here scooped up. Like that, okay? Now, we're gonna get it wet, and you guessed it, we're gonna go even further. So we've got this on the side. We're gonna tilt it even more, okay? But we're only gonna go to about halfway. Let's go ahead, very slowly. Just focus. Focus on keeping the tip of that tool down there at the bottom, because you don't want your pot to collapse. We're just gonna slowly help it stretch. Stretch further and further. We're gonna slowly let off and come up with it like this. Wow, that's beautiful. Now, let's go ahead and get the water out of the bottom here real quick, and we're just about there. It's still a little steep, so let's go ahead and introduce this tool. I love this tool because it helps round things out. Now, this is really important, and this helps a ton. Keep that tool down here, okay? And let's just put this kind of down in the base of the bowl and see what happens, okay? So we're just gonna gently let it drag in there, okay? We're gonna push on to this tool. Now I'm gonna slowly drag the inside tool up. We're gonna rotate both tools at the same time. We're gonna really stretch this clay. Look at it, it's trying to stretch, it's stretching, it's stretching. And now we're gonna slowly let off at the top. That is a bowl. All right, let's clean these tools off a little bit. Now what I wanna do is we'll take this guy right here, and we're just gonna glide this tool in here. We're gonna kind of help that bowl expand a little further. So we really need to break that. We broke the bowl. Ah! Whoa, did you see that? That was crazy. Okay, if that happens, don't fret. Let's just go ahead and see what we can do with it. So, let's go ahead. This is a big bowl. Oh my goodness, this is a great first episode. We're gonna take this tool. It's gonna be our best friend, and we're gonna use it to widen this bowl out, okay? So, we're gonna put it on the side. We're just gonna put a little bit of pressure on the clay. All right, look at that. Just because it collapsed doesn't mean it's over. Like, don't give up. There's a good life lesson there. Don't give up. You never know what you can do. So, we're not gonna try and stretch it too much further because we already know we've kind of reached the limits of the clay. But that doesn't mean we can smooth it out and get it kind of back on centered. That's why I love bowls. They're like so forgiving. So, if you just believe. Now we're just gonna bring our hand in and up like this. Wow, check that out. Now we're gonna slowly let off at the top. Okay. That's not too bad. It was looking really scary just a minute ago, wasn't it? Okay. Now let's go ahead and smooth out the bottom there. Now we're just gonna take a couple fingers on the walls here and smooth out the rim. Get that all nice and smoothed out. This kind of helps center the top too, so it doesn't look so wobbly. Wow. That was incredible. I'm so glad you guys were here to see that because it's true. Like, when you're making pottery, you just like don't give up so quickly. Like, you can always expand it and flare it out into a bowl until it really just like rips apart. But now let's go ahead. We know that we should probably stop right here. So let's go ahead and heat this up. So to do that, we're just gonna clean off our hands real quick. Okay. And we're gonna use a hair dryer. So the first thing you wanna do is aim it in, and we're just gonna put it on high and hot. What this does is it kind of heats the clay up so that when you go to take it off the wheel, it's not gonna collapse like it almost did just a little bit ago. Wow. Isn't that incredible? At one moment, I thought it was over. And I was like, great. We're gonna have to do another take. But really, it was a teaching opportunity. And I'm actually really glad it happened because, you know, if you're throwing along with me and you're a beginner, you're gonna have some bowls and vases and cups and mugs and but pieces that just like, they go to fall apart. And the first instinct is like, oh, I messed up and I can't return from this. That's not always the case. And worst case scenario, if it really did fall apart and collapse, you can just let the clay dry a little bit and re-knead it and make something out of that. It's a beautiful process. So let's keep this going. You gotta come in here and get this really dry. That nice and dry. What's nice is because we stretched it so much, it's pretty thin. I'm just gonna put my hand right here. Kind of helps kind of knock it back on center. Now let's go on the outside. Get the outside all dried up. Wow. That could have been so bad.
That was a close call. No, this part though can be like super therapeutic too though. You got the noise of the hair dryer. Watching the clay kind of spin. Like this is like so therapeutic. There's so many nights in the pottery studio where I feel like we were so tired and we would get so hungry because you'd like make this really big piece and then you'd be sitting here drying it out, you know, for a while. Now watch this. Let's go over the rim here. You go in like this. So
one of the reasons why I actually use the hairdryer now over like a torch or something is because the torch is really hot and it works well, but I found one day while I was out in the desert throwing pottery that hot air, like wind, you know, actually dries out the clay a lot faster than a torch does. It's the hot air. And so that's why we use a hairdryer now.
So we're gonna do this for another minute or two. And again, we're just getting it, you know, nice and heated up so that if we go to take it off the wheel, we don't actually crush it. So we want to save this bowl. This bowl was kind of like a little miracle bowl. You know, and some pottery artists, I remember like when I was first starting out, that if the piece was wobbly at all, it would kind of give me anxiety and stuff.
But hey, if that ever happens, you just stop the wheel and whoa, look, the wobble's gone. That's what I tell people. Okay, let's check it. So it's still a little tacky, so let's go ahead and keep heating it up.
You know, I'll talk about my story a little bit in later episodes too, but this might be a good time where I share a little bit about it. Essentially, when I was in high school, I needed an art credit to graduate, and so they stuck me in ceramics. It was kind of nice because I had already taken drawing like in middle school and figured out I am not good at drawing. Like I could not draw to save my life. And so I got in ceramics. First day, it was like 30 kids to 15 pottery wheels. And so we got paired up with a partner, but our teacher did a demo for us, kind of like this, to show us how to throw pottery. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. For him to take this lump of clay that was nothing into this beautiful vase that he made, it really caught my attention and caused me to like quickly memorize the steps, just the general steps on how to do it, because I really, really wanted to be able to get that good. So then we go to our wheels, and I actually teach my partner. It was a girl, so I was like, here, you go first. Like, ladies first, go ahead. And I'll just be here and help as best I can, even though I don't know what I'm doing. And she was so kind. You know, what's crazy is
I don't even remember who it was. And so if you find this video and you're like, hey, it was me, please leave a comment or reach out to me. I'd love to thank you for giving me the opportunity to teach you that day.
Because what that did,
when you teach someone something, you get better at it. And whether she knows it or not, she helped me excel in pottery like so fast.
So anyways, had the steps memorized, did my best to teach her kind of like what to do. And then I got on the wheel and just loved it. Well, soon enough, I found myself at the pottery studio every day until like 9 o'clock at night or midnight. Just throwing pottery all night long. And during this time, you know, you're a senior in high school. Everybody's asking you, like, what are you going to do after school? Like, what are your plans? I'm really young for my grade, and I'm a member of a church where when you turn 18 or 19, you can go on a 2-year mission and just talk to people about Jesus for 2 years. And so a lot of kids from my school were also part of this religion, and a lot of them were leaving like really soon because they were turning 18 and they could leave on this mission, whereas I was only 17. So I had a whole year. So I thought, you know what, maybe I'll go down. I love to ride motocross. I love pottery. I'll go down to SUU, where my dad went to college in Utah at SUU, and do pottery, race dirt bikes, date girls, whatever. Just live life, you know? And then I'll go on a mission. Well, all of this pressure, the people asking me and me making mistakes and making it harder for me to go on a mission and stuff like that. Man, there's such a big weight on my shoulders.
All right, let's pause for a second. Just check this because oh yeah, look at that. Look how firm that is now. Okay, pause the story. I'm gonna use the wooden knife here just to kind of dig down and in. This just kind of helps trim up the bottom a little bit. Honestly, we didn't have much to trim off anyways. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Take our wire tool, wrap that around our fingers like floss, hold it tight, push down, and slide through. Look at that. Just hold it on the wheel. Hold that tight and push down and just let the clay cut itself off the wheel. And then we're gonna kind of pull up and turn and it pops off. Check that out. Now, let's go ahead and throw it upside down. I mean, don't throw it too hard. Let's get that in the middle as best we can. Just like that. Okay. Now, you can smooth out the bottom. We got to smooth out the bottom before we sign it. You can do it while the wheel's moving if you get it on center like this really well. Or if it's still kind of wobbly, just kind of do a little wax on, wax off action here. We're just going in circles. It's like sponge on, sponge off is what we should call it, huh? Then we're gonna take our sponge. Our sponge just has a little bit of water. Kind of wrap it around the sides, really smooth that out. So if you're on the wheel and it's centered, something I like to do is you can kind of like go from the inside and out, and it creates this really pretty like swirl. Usually you want to like empty all this water out of your sponge first and then do it. But if the bottom sinks in too, by the way, at all, don't worry. Like when you flip it back over, it's going to, gravity will kind of sink it back down to be flat. All right, we're gonna take our needle tool now and use it to write our initials, or this is where you put your signature. Now my signature is just kind of like my initials, and then I do my N a little funky. And then I like to put the year, because that tells you and whoever might end up with your pottery one day what year you made it. And a brutal, I'll just throw this in there. This is a funny story, brutal truth that I came to is in college. I told a counselor, like, I want to be a pottery artist. And they're like, that's great, but just know your pottery is going to be worthless until you're dead, really. And I was like, shoot, you know what? I actually understand why that makes sense. But anyways, so I was feeling a lot of pressure. Back to the story while we just kind of smooth this out. A lot of pressure, didn't know what to do. I wanted to go to college, but I also wanted to go on this mission thing and serve people. So I've been wanting to do that since I was a little kid, actually. So I was really struggling. Like, I felt worthless because some mistakes I made, and it just made life a lot harder. And one day I'm throwing on the wheel, and I make the most beautiful vase, okay? It's like straight out of Hercules, the movie. And I sit back and look at it, and then God told me, see, Tyler, how could worthless hands make something so beautiful? And I just felt so much love from God that day, and just knew that he knew that like I existed and was feeling these horrible feelings, but he told me just how much he loved me, that I'm not worthless. And so if anything, I'm really glad you joined today, and you're not worthless. You have so much worth and so much to give. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Well, we're not done actually. We've got our pot made, our little bowl. We've got it signed and the bottom smoothed out. Now we're going to bisque fire it, and then we'll glaze it, and then we'll fire it, and then we'll enjoy a bowl of cereal or, you know, some ramen, whatever you want. And so let's get this thing bisque fired, okay? Here we go. Whoa! And it's bisque fired. Okay, guys, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Today we're going to be glazing with Penguin Pottery Supplies, the off-white color, and we're going to fire it to cone 6. Now, I've never used this glaze, but I'm really excited to try. First things that you got to do is get it all shook up. Now, we did that, so we're going to make sure to do that for a couple minutes, get all mixed in well. And then go ahead and take the cap off. Now, this glaze, I'm starting to notice, is like really thick. So a good brush for that would be one kind of like this. It's called a 1 1/4 inch brush. And so all you'll want to do is just get your brush a little bit wet before you start glazing. So I'm just going to dab it in a little bit of water, kind of brush it around my hand here. And now with this particular glaze, all we're going to really do is just dip our paintbrush in here, and we need to do 2 to 3 coats, okay? They do recommend doing at least 3 coats, so let's go ahead and take this guy, and we'll just start painting. Now, this is probably one of the easier, fun, less risky parts of pottery that really anybody can do, and it's super fun because all you have to do is just dip your brush in there and then paint. You can't really, well, I guess I shouldn't say that you can't really screw this part up. You definitely can, but the only way to screw it up is not doing enough glaze or doing too much glaze. It's kind of the same principle when we were throwing the pottery. Too much water or not enough water. So let's go ahead and give this guy the first little batch here. I'm just lathering this stuff on. Look at that. You'll start to notice that the first coat actually dries pretty quick. And just so you can see kind of what it's supposed to look like. I don't know if you can see that. It's called off-white, so it's gonna kind of look like the picture there. Now, once we do this inside, I always like to do the inside first. You can do the outside first, depending on the style of glazing you're going for or your needs. But generally, it doesn't really matter. As long as you get enough coats, you get enough glaze on there. Not too much, but definitely enough. You can put like 4 coats on there. I just wouldn't put like 20 coats on pottery because it either will drip or splotch. Like it's just, it doesn't turn out really good. Okay, check that out. So we've got the inside done. One thing to notice, some people, they'll do it kind of like this direction, and then they'll do the next coat the other direction. This is called cross hatching, and that is more than fine. Let's go ahead and do one more coat, actually. Let's cross hatch it. Why not? it actually works pretty dang good. Look, we've got it there on the rim. I'm just gonna go down into the bottom so I don't forget where I'm at. That's one thing. I can kind of like lose my spot on where you're glazing, so that you'll end up with one side glazed way more than the other. So I'm just gonna glaze the bottom here. I always, this is a very relaxing part of the process, but sometimes I get a little nervous that I'm gonna miss a spot. But you know what? The good thing is, as long as you get at least a couple coats, that's when your glaze will turn out really well. Now, 3 coats is the best, but the glaze kind of curates and it turns out really good at least 2 to 3 coats. If you do less than that, then yeah, the glaze probably won't turn out super well, but at least you know that it's super unique, right? Look at that. This glaze is pretty thick. I kind of like it. You like really know where you're glazing. I wonder what it's gonna look like really when it's out of the kiln. Look at that. Just making sure I'm getting all those little cracks and crannies. Oh yeah. Now this is our second coat. So you notice how quick that first coat dried, like mega quick. I was actually a little surprised. But what's happening is this pottery is like a really dry sponge. And so it's literally just soaking that glaze up. And if you ever wonder what glaze really is, I like to kind of help people get a visual of just imagining it's kind of like liquid sand. And what happens to sand when we heat it up really hot? Well, it turns to glass, right? So if you can imagine, you're kind of just painting on liquid sand. So that's kind of essentially what it does. And the pottery just soaks up that liquid. And when it's in the kiln, it kind of turns to glass. Okay. There's a couple coats. Let's do, you know what I'm going to do? Let's flip this guy upside down and give this a try, okay? We're going to actually use the pottery wheel to kind of help get our line. So I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to get quite a bit of glaze on it. That's why I like this brush. It holds a lot of glaze. And I like to do a natural foot. You see down here? We're going to glaze up to this point. Maybe we'll go a little further. Like maybe I'll put the brush on the line and then see what it does. But I like to have a little natural foot. So like 1/4 of an inch just bare, because you're going to see it's going to actually change color when we take it out of the kiln. So let's go ahead and turn on our pottery wheel. There we go. Now let's go ahead and just take this glaze. And I like to start up here so that when we flip it over, we can do the rest a lot easier than coming down here, because then you'll hit the wheel. So let's go ahead. I'm actually just gonna go for it. We'll just go right there. Look at that. It is so dry that it's like soaking up all that glaze. So I need quite a bit more glaze here. Holy cow. Wow. This is actually like really fun. I make a lot of pottery, but sometimes I don't get around to glazing it, which some of you might have that I call it a habit. You love to create, but you struggle to finish a piece. Let's take a look and see what that's doing. That is fascinating. Interesting. So it's almost like we need to really lather this on here. I've Never seen a glaze do that before. Look at that. It's just kind of, I'm going to angle the brush like this so I can push a decent layer up there. Okay, see that? Now we're just going to manually kind of splotch that in. I don't really like how it just kind of caked on there. That'll be really interesting to see though when it comes out of the kiln. All these rivets, it might actually look pretty cool. Maybe I should kind of embrace that style. It usually just goes straight on flat. Yeah, look at that. It's got a lot of that. Well, I'm still gonna come in here at an angle like this and just kind of hopefully clean it up a little bit. Now there's probably quite a bit of layers of glaze here. That's okay, because it's gonna turn out pretty unique there. I just hope it doesn't drip onto my new kiln shelves. That would be quite the story, wouldn't it? Yeah, let's just kind of layer that up there. Get that glaze all spread out. There we go. Get a nice thick layer. Kind of fill in those. It's nice. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you want a perfect line, you can tape it. But I'm just going to kind of go like this. Wow, that is going to be an interesting spot right there. Now, we're doing the edges kind of like when you're painting a house. You want to tape, the edges of the wall and the corners, and then paint a line so that you can blend it in. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're making our line, and then we're going to blend it in with all this other stuff. Now the good news about this, what is it, 4 fluid ounce? It's a pretty small bottle of glaze. So I could see this getting a little expensive, but if it's really nice quality and consistent, it's totally worth it. Like, that's what you're paying for. And sometimes a lot of specific, wow, that's going to be very interesting. Holy cow. Now remember, we don't want to glaze the bottom. Do you know why? Because if we glaze the bottom, it's going to stick to our kiln shelf, which is a no bueno. No bueno, okay? Here, let's take this and flip it over. Look at that. See, that's all done. Now we just need to, whoops. Let me bring that rack right there. I may have gone a little overboard on this outside. Might be just enough. I bet we could glaze another project with this, depending on the side, though. Just keep layering it on here. Now the inside only needs one more layer. One more coat is what they call it. Wow, look at that. There we go. It's looking nice. Kind of try and blend that in as well as you can. This glaze did come a little thick, so honestly, like, this might be 2 coats worth. I know this bottom line right here is definitely like almost 3 coats. There we go. Okay, that's looking really good. Now, if we set this down, let's do the 3rd coat on the inside. Oh yeah, we've got plenty of glaze in here. Here, I'll kind of angle this for you so you can see. We already kind of went we cross-hatched, before, so we'll just go around it like this. Now the very last part that we're gonna do is that rim. So don't worry, we're not gonna forget the rim. It's very important to get the rim. There we go. One thing you can do too, if you don't want to like spend a whole ton of money on different colors, you want to like save a little bit, is you can actually glaze the inside like clear, especially depending on the project. Because if it's like a little bud vase, you can just do the inside clear and no one's ever gonna see the inside. And then do the outside, the cool colors, just I guess more unique colors. I like the clear one too, because it shows the natural color of the pot. Now I'm just gonna do a little extra layer inside here, because those are the nooks and cracks and crannies, whatever you want to call them, that sometimes get missed. Now if we do this, this should get rid of any kind of potential strokes. Okay, let's try this. Hopefully, maybe we could get these guys to sponsor us and we can show you a lot more of their glazes on every project we do. We could do multiple kinds. And wouldn't that be fun? Just tons of wonderful colors. I'm coming here on the rim really careful to make sure that glaze really seeps through. Okay. There we go. That's looking great. All right. Now, since we got this bottom rim down here really well, let's just do one more coat on the outside here. And that, I think, should do us a great deal. Yeah, it's like caking on there. I love it. Oh yeah, look at that. Doing this last layer. I'm so excited to get this in the kiln, and we're gonna see all the hard work that we've put into this. See the result. It's kind of a magical experience when you open up the kiln, because you can't really control, what happens in the kiln 100%. Like sometimes glazes turn out completely different than you think they will. And so it's like full of magic and mystery, but also surprise. Okay, look at that. Let's take a look here and see how we did. Let's take this guy. Oh, that's way off centered. There we go. I think we're good to go. I think we are good to go. So let's go ahead and throw this in the kiln real quick and see the final result. Whoa! Check that out. Simple, beautiful pottery that you can be proud of. Imagine had we just given up when this bowl almost folded in half. So I hope that we all got to experience a good lesson during this episode of, just never give up. Art, pottery, life can be difficult at times, but be patient with yourself, because I promise you, if you just take the time to slow down, there's an artist within you. Just let it come from your heart and let the clay guide you wherever it takes you. Now, I just want to say thanks for joining this episode, our very first episode of our very first season of the Heart of Clay series, and hope to see you next week with your pottery wheel ready to go, clay centered, and ready to find that artist that's inside, just as we found this bowl inside that lump of clay. So thanks for joining, and friends, I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week.